right, so y'all ready to get started? All right, to give you a little bit about myself, my name is Scott Bailey. I've been with Avivo for 3 years. I've been in construction since I was 17 years old, building wastewater treatment plants, water treatment plants. I was a superintendent for the last 20 years. I've built just about everything you can think of in this industry. It's done me really good, and I really enjoy Avivo. It's a good company. I've put a lot of their products in over the years: clarifier screens, grit classifiers, LMs, well, not the LMs, but the digesters, those draft tubes that y'all have up there. I've put a bunch of those in construction. Today we got the LM18. The LMs, which is linear motion mixer, they're only about 4 years old. We'll get into those. My clicker on here. So Avivo, some of y'all will remember some of the names that we used to have, that we have underneath of us: Jones and Atwood screens, DeRoliver clarifiers, Emco clarifiers have been around since the late 60s. That's where we started from, was Emco and DeRoliver clarifiers. We've bought this company, bought that company. In 2010, we had so many companies underneath of us that it was just too much hectic stuff going on to be able to find us, locate parts, locate products, so on and so on. So they brought up the name Avivo. It don't mean anything. His son was sitting at a kitchen table and he spelt that word, and it spelt the same way frontwards or backwards. That's how the Avivo name came. So they took Avivo and made it an umbrella name for all these companies for water and wastewater treatment underneath them. So that's where it comes from. Albuquerque, for you guys, we have an LM18X, which is linear motion mixer with an 18 horsepower motor. One of these LMs will do what 4 or 5 draft tube mixers will do. And as we go through, I'll show you why. Anytime you have any kind of questions when I'm not here, whatever, everything that's on this page except for the pictures are in your O&M. Your O&M has reference drawings. There's sheets up here in the front that'll tell you who I am, what my background is. It'll also give you reference page numbers that y'all can flip through and look at these manuals and find most of your questions: lubrication, gear ratios, torque specs for the bolts, yada yada. Okay, so objective today: train the maintenance personnel and operators on how to maintain the 18X LM mixer, which this will be the very easiest, least looked at machine that you have on the whole property. I promise you that. Contents of this whole PowerPoint: we're gonna go over the overview of the equipment, the safety warnings, the operating procedures, the equipment maintenance, troubleshooting, and there's some training aids, like I said, in here if y'all want to get them. It don't really, the paper don't have really what I have on here, but it will give you some good information on quick reference of pages. All right, so the purpose of the mixing: improve contact between the microbes and the solids, homogenize the tank contents, dilute the incoming toxins, minimize foam formation, and minimize scum accumulation. So on your draft tube mixers that y'all have out in the field, it's normally got, what, a 35, 40 horsepower motor up there. It spins like a boat. It's got a shaft with a big boat propeller on the bottom of it. And all it does is that mix draws it up in the tube and flips it. That's really all it does. So the design of that is really old. And what happens is when it comes up, it actually hits the side of the tank. And your solids just kind of ease down beside the tank, so you end up with a lot of buildup on the sides. I'm sure some of y'all who've had to clean out these tanks know that you have a lot of buildup on the draft tube mixers. The way this happens, it takes care of that problem. It has a patented oscillating mixing system. The oscillating is strictly up and down. This concept came from your grandma, your great-grandma. They used to make butter. She took a barrel on the porch. She had a flat piece of plywood disc with a rod in it, and she poured cream in it, and she took it up and down, up and down, up and down all day long. And that patent of that, doing that and making that cream, is where this idea actually came from. It utilizes a Scotch yoke cam follower drive system. It features a hydro disc for liquid displacement, creates vertical turbulence to liquid core displacement mixing, and creates pulsating pressure waves to enhance mass movement. So this right here is an older style. It's not what you guys have. The new style, the X, the 18X that you guys have here, there's only 3 in the world right now, and you guys have 2 of them. So you have the brand new Cadillac of Cadillacs. So this right here is just a little thing of what the old system kind of looked like, but it does tell you that here's your dome cover, here's your seal, and here's your shaft that comes down with your hydro disc there at the bottom. Your disc is 18 inches wide all the way around. And I'll show you a picture of what it does. So what it does, it gives you a typical flow pattern of 360 degrees around that hydro disc. So as it's pushing, it's moving, it's doing short waves. The 18 stands for 18 inches of stroke. So it goes up 18 inches and come down 18 inches. That's all it moves. It don't go around in circles, it just goes straight up and down. The 18 inches create this dual pattern at 360 degrees around that thing, which is more efficient with the dual pattern. It does not rely on induced flow. So you can turn your flow off, leave that mixer going, and it's going to keep you mixed just like you would if you kept inducing flow and having effluent go out of it. It relies on displacement of the liquid and whatever that word is. Somebody said. But the thing about this is that you don't have the big vortex that's inside that you do on a draft tube mixer. Draft tube mixer, it spins so fast it pulls it down, which when it pulls it down, it pulls gases into your mix. And as them gases come back up, that creates the foam and foaming problems that you have on top. With the slow movement of this, which is only 30 strokes per minute, 30 up and 30 down per minute, with the slower stroke and the slower movement of the water, it keeps all that foaming and all your gases up top, and it don't pull the gases down in the mix. It lets it all come to the top. So this is your linear motion mixer as a whole. Up here you have your motor. Behind there you have your gearbox reducer, which I'll show you in a minute. This is your main cabinet. In that main cabinet will hold your Scotch yoke inside of it. This is your little stand right here. That stand is covered all 4 sides to keep any kind of cold air blowing through there and keeping that bearing out of the cold wind and blowing. In the front of that, you have a little hatch door. The hatch door is there, so you have 2 grease spots in that hatch door. One thing, both on the lower bearing. You have a lower bearing that's underneath the cabinet right here. It's a slow moving part, so you don't have a lot of friction, you don't have a lot of heat on the bearing, but that is required for you guys to grease once a week. If you start seeing buildup on the shaft, excess grease, whatever, you can cut it back to like 2 weeks, and we'll get over that in a little bit here, a little bit more. So right here is the top of your cover for your digester there. You have a bolted flange here, and right here is your hydro reservoir. This is a redeveloped concept, so to speak. The old ones that we had leaked a lot, and they spilt over and had a lot of issues. This is a newer design. We'll get into that. And then down here is your shaft that comes through. Y'all have 2 joints in there. Anytime that y'all take this basin down for any reason, if y'all use it, because I think you guys are using this as an extra storage tank or whatever, so any chance that you get in there to clean it out, inspect these bolts. You have a set there and a set there. You can actually look up and actually see them. All of them are Loctited, and they're torqued down. I think it's 85 foot-pounds on each one of these bolts here, here, and down here on the hydro disc. And then you have section plates that actually hold this together. Just inspect those bolts, because over time, the movement, the vibration that's in the water and the way it moves, if these bolts come loose at a later date, this pops off. You're going to have to drain the whole tank to be able to fix it. So anytime, most times people don't take digesters down. It's just very rare that anybody does. But if you ever have to, that's your chance to get in there. At least make sure that those bolts are tight and everything still looks good inside. So this is actually your machine. It's over on the big one. It's not 13, but it's over on the new one. Oops. So here is your hydro seal top up here. You have 2 inspection hole and fill holes to inspect the water that's inside. This is the bottom of it. So what happens is, this is the outer ring, and then you'll have an inner ring inside. So the way it works is you have a cup here and a cup here, and there's water all the way around them. So this part moves up and down, keeping the gas seal. And that's what you want to do, is keep all the gases in there so y'all be able to utilize it for generation or whatever. But it also keeps all the gases from coming up into the atmosphere. So that's your liquid seal there. The liquid seal itself here and here is an inspection port. The inspection port is because you have to have 1 foot 2 below this top cover. So you can take a measuring tape or a stick or whatever and measure down there and mark that. You need 1 foot 2 is the magic number from that top down to the water level. Now this, over time, you'll have water evaporation. Sometimes you'll have a little splash out. So, you know, every 2 months, maybe 1 month, 2 months, when you go to put your grease on your lower bearing, take that cover off and look inside there and check your water. Now, there's a 50-50 ratio between water and glycol. Glycol is a like an antifreeze, so to speak. It keeps that water from in that seal freezing. So that's kind of the hydro seal. So if it don't have that other, the seal reservoir, it'll have this seal pipe. And if it has the seal pipe, you need to stay 1 foot above that opening down at the bottom to create your seal. The minimum operating level for this tank, if it has this particular seal, is going to be 1 foot above that. And that manual should have a drawing in there that might have minimum elevations for your mix. All right, so this is inside the tank that I took about 40 minutes ago. So here's your shaft here, and here's your hydro disc that they're mounting and putting together as we speak. The hydro disc is 18 inches paddle here. So that, like I said, it gives you 18 inches round circle of displacement to move all that liquid. Here's a wider view. You still can't even see the top of it. But here's the shaft length here. You have right about in here somewhere, there's a coupling there for your pipe. It goes from a 10-inch Schedule 80 stainless steel pipe. It comes down here to an 8-inch and then down to a 6-inch, and then you have a connection here. The only bolts that you're going to be able to see and look at really when you're there, you'll be able to see these right here, which is that connection. You'll see a flange connection there. Each one of these are bolted here on these fins that you'll be able to check those bolts. Just make sure they're tight. You know, if any of them's missing, try to replace them.
Are those stainless steel bolts?
Yes. Yes, they are stainless steel bolts and they have Loctite on them. So if you ever have to take it apart, you might break 1 or 2 of them, but at least you won't have to worry about the bolts coming loose with the Loctite on. Because normally, in construction, I say if it's shiny, you need to never seize it. So anything below water, we Loctite. Anything above, we never seize. But that is inside your tank. So here's your housing assembly that's up on top. You have your motor there. The motor's got a grease port up on top. One there. Here's your gearbox assembly here, your gear reducer. On this back corner right over there, there is about a $50 size sight glass to be able to check your oil. It should be half of that. Half of that sight glass will be minimum and maximum. You only got like that much, but so the motor spins the gearbox. The big gearbox comes through to this shaft. It comes to your crank assembly. Your crank assembly, you have your black wheel for your cam follower. Your cam follower sticks inside this Scotch yoke. Okay, so as as your crank assembly comes up and down and up and down, it moves this stationary wheel up and down. Well, the wheel pushes on the top of the Scotch yoke and lifts the whole shaft up. Then the wheel will ride over to this side. As the crank comes around, it'll ride to this side and then hit the bottom bar and actually push it back down. And I'm sure some of y'all have seen how that thing works. It goes up and over and up and over and up and over. Down here, in this little thing right here, you have a coupler, and then you have a lower linear bearing here. That lower linear bearing has 2 grease ports on it, should be greased weekly. If you start seeing excess, like I said before, just back up to every other week. It'll be fine. As long as the shaft that's coming down is shiny and it's got grease on that bottom shaft, you don't want it to run dry because it'll end up heating the bearings up and then tearing them out. In the 3 years that I've been working on these, I've never seen one of these go bad yet because there's not high friction. It's not like a high-speed bearing that takes a lot of friction and heat and stuff like that. But one of your wear items is going to be this coupler right there. That coupler is almost like 2 ball bearings and 2 couplers. So what it does is any kind of movement in that shaft that's down in that water, that coupler allows that friction to be lost, that movement to be lost inside that coupler. So you will have wear on those couplers. They're about every, so it depends on how thick your mix is and yada yada, but I've changed probably, I don't know, maybe 15 of those out in the 3 years that I've been with them. They're real easy to do.
So how often are they wearing out?